welcome Just Winging It podcast members, wingers and wingettes. We got another episode for you today, and we have Katherine here, our guest from Just Because Consulting. So we have Katherine here, and we're going to talk about polyamorous, and we're going to talk about how you deal with that with kids and relationships, and just your perspective. And it's going to be something new and spicy in my type of conversation because we normally don't have guests that have that conversation, but it's conversations that we need to discuss, that we want to talk about. And I know some listeners have those type of wants and those urges to know what really goes on in a relationship and how everybody else maneuvers around that, and is it okay, and can you be okay to be spontaneous? So Katherine, thank you so much for coming on to this podcast. You have a podcast of your own, you interview so many people, you're so busy, but you're so much of a good warm spirit, and I thank you so much for coming on here. And tell everybody about yourself. How are you?
My pleasure. It's rare that I get an opportunity to talk about something other than fundraising. So for me, I wanted to hop on the conversation and be like, all right, let's switch things up, which also ties into what we're going to be talking about.
Right.
My business is actually around nonprofit consulting. So I work with a lot of nonprofits around different causes, be it animals, the environment, social causes, and how we can fundraise better to improve their missions, which has absolutely nothing with what we're going to be talking about today. But
we had to shine light on that. We had to shine light.
I had to share. But there is something around, there is a connection, because I'll always be able to make connections around the fact that when you're working, the best way of moving forward is often to work through partnerships and collaboration. So when we're thinking about our relationships, that can also be tied into how we can best view a family. How it will run better is through collaborations, through partnerships, and that larger sense of community, right?
Right.
So polyamory, a lot of people are like, oh, like, what do you mean? What does that mean? Swingers? Like, there's so many terms.
Yeah.
There's so many terms out there, right? So
everybody has their own definition. Yeah, exactly.
And there's no right or wrong answer. And I'm not here to say that polyamory is the number one solution for everyone now. Like, there's definitely going to be a spectrum of what you're comfortable with. And everything is about discussing with your own partner. Like, what are you actually comfortable with, right?
Right.
You can't just say, like, yeah, it's the one size fits all.
Yeah, it's good that you guys have that conversation to be open and, be comfortable with each other and say, what is it that you're into, or what do you want to explore? Because not a lot of people do that, but they want to ask.
But that's the thing, and this comes down to like the basis of what in my opinion, the basis for any polyamorous relationship or open relationship or swingers or whatever it is, anything that goes outside of what we would call the norm. But even in monogamous relationships, the basis is strong communication, where you can be honest with your partner about what you want, what your expectations are. And this goes beyond like who you want to have sex with. Like, this is just how a good, healthy relationship should be. It should really be about being comfortable sharing, even what society might feel is a bit strange or uncomfortable. So the basis of a strong relationship is communications. So when we talk about polyamory, what do we mean by that? There are many different forms, of course. So we had talked about previously, like, polygamy is like the institutional version, where it's like you're allowed to marry several people, which is legal.
I thought we were talking about in the beginning.
And it's related. Yeah. It's related. Yeah. But this is more, polyamory is a bit more general, I would say. Like, you don't have to do the step of getting married, but you can have, they believe that you can have, be in love with several people at the same time. So that's very broad, because let's be honest, love comes and shows up in different forms. How many marriages have I seen where the girl, like the woman, has a best girlfriend that, like, I almost feel like they're closer than the husband and wife.
Yeah, sometimes you see that a lot. You see that a lot.
Or any relationship, be it, heteronormative, homosexual, whatever. There's always going to be other people that we love, be it our family or really good friendships. So we do believe as a society that we can love several people.
Exactly.
But when we talk about romantic love, it's like, hell no.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, there's a law on it. Well, there is in a way, but it's like, I feel, let people be free. If you want to, at my perspective, you want to marry so and so and so and so, you guys are all happy. It should be fine. However, there's laws on things. Like that communication. You guys probably have possibly one of the best communication that others don't have, because you guys already know, okay, I know my man is going to be with this person tonight, and I know, my wife is going to be with this person tonight. All right, no problem. You're coming home to me. What is what is the first thing in your what is the first moment in your conversation or relationship that led to this polyamorous relationship?
We've actually been open / poly since the beginning of our relationship.
Oh,
So
okay.
my husband and I have been together for going on almost 8 years. So we've been together
Okay.
for quite some time, and from the
Yes.
beginning, we believe that we should have that openness to see other people. So
Okay.
and it came from different places. So I do believe that the feminine energy and the masculine energy will view relationships in different ways. It's just, and in any type of relationship, I'm not talking about man woman, like this goes beyond that. It talks about the type of
Right.
energy you're having, and
Right.
they could be reversed. You can have sometimes where the man has the feminine energy and the woman has the masculine energy, or like I've been in a relationship with another woman where we both just had different energies in that relationship.
Okay.
So this goes beyond like man
Right.
woman, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, what it came down to is I had actually always dated women in my life until
Okay.
like I had men that I had dated men, but like serious
But
relationships,
more
I had only
women.
more with women. And
Okay.
so when I met my husband, I was like, and it had always been a question. Like when I had a girlfriend, I was like, oh, so that means I'm never going to be with a guy again. And whenever I would meet a guy, I was like, so that means I'm never going to be with a woman again. And it was very like, and I'm sorry to say, but like, there's no man that's going to replace how I am with a woman. It's just not going to happen, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So for me, that's kind of where it came from. Of do I really want to have to put a big X on what I consider as a big important part of my life?
Yeah.
So that might not be the situation for everyone. That might not be the reason or the motivation of why to open up your relationship. And like I'm gonna say something that I think is generally true. I feel like there's much less men out there that are gonna say no to their wife / girlfriend going to see other girls.
Yeah.
They're all gonna be like, hell yeah, can I watch?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
can you bring them over?
Can I
what
join?
if you want to see another man? How does that go?
So then that's where the complications come in for some relationships. Like my husband has always been like, if that is something that you want, I'm okay with it as long as I can respect and trust the man, which he does not respect and trust many men. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of messed up guys out there.
Yeah, yeah.
But on the other side, there's a lot of crazy bitches out there. Like there's a lot of crazy women out there.
That is true. That's a big thing.
And that's the big issue of. So for me, it's not about putting rules about you can or you cannot, but it's about putting rules about the respect of your relationship. As much as these same rules can apply with friendships. If your partner has friends that are like really not good for him or for your relationship, like that get them into trouble. Girls that just want to party and like get drunk and get into messed up situations that are like
different
dangerous.
goals than you. Yeah.
They're not bringing you guys in the same direction as what your relationship goals are. I believe as a couple, it is part of the communication of like, hey, like I'm not so comfortable with you spending so much time with this person because it obviously affects a relationship. So the same rules apply in a polyamorous relationship. It's not a free for all. For some people, it might be. At least in mine, it's not. If I feel like I don't like this person's energy, and I have valid reason, not like I'm just jealous and controlling. But if it's like, hey, I've noticed this and it really makes me uncomfortable. I feel like she doesn't respect me. She talks to me like in a really bad way. Then he'll say, okay. And like our relationship is the priority. Like he'll never say, like, so
yeah,
exactly. And I'm not saying this is the rule for everyone. I'm saying this is what works for us. And so that makes me feel safe in exploring those things, allowing him to explore what he wants to explore, but also knowing that I can feel comfortable sharing how I actually feel about different situations. And you know what's crazy is that I have found that by doing that, we've already talked about this, and I thought it was crazy that by allowing him to go and see other women when he comes back home, let's say from a date or whatever, and he had a great time, he got to feel validated, he got to have attention from another woman, he got to maybe even sleep with another woman. He comes home and he's just like, God damn it, I love you for letting me do that. Like, thank you so much. And
like, do you help him get ready for his date?
I mean, sometimes I'm like I don't know if I would wear that, or like even sometimes like when he would be on like Tinder, we'd be like, oh, what about this joke? I'm like, oh, come on, like you can't do that. Or sometimes I'd help him find like some of the jokes, and like so it becomes a partnership of like caring about the other person more than your own insecurities, because it doesn't mean that when you're poly that you're not jealous.
That would be me. I listen. You're like on a total another mature level than me, because there's no way I can tell my wife. I don't know. Like, I just feel like your relationship makes it so much cooler. Like, my relationship with my wife, like, we have so much open communication. We talk about everything. We get everything out. But there's no way right now in my mind I could go help her get ready for another date with somebody, or get ready or give her to somebody else but me. I wouldn't be able to do it. I wouldn't be able to do it.
Cassandra, like, it's not to say that I don't get jealous, or that I don't get insecure, or that I don't have my freakouts and moments where I'm like, nah, not down. No.
Yeah.
It definitely still happens. I definitely am not always like, yay, happy. No, sometimes I'm like, hell no, like, I just want you to myself. Like, screw this. But what we've realized, and what I've realized, is that there are different times in relationships that eventually things will change, and things you'll in the beginning we were actually super more like, yeah, sure, and we're more in like playful mode, and now we're building up something stronger, and I'm like, I don't have as much energy to put out into meeting other people and to bringing them in and to dealing with the relationship. Because what people don't realize is that every time you spend time or you're building a relationship with someone, like, that takes your energy, but also you're absorbing their energy. So if they're not aligned with your, let's say, main relationships goals, then it definitely has an impact. So it is very impactful on relationships. But bringing it back to my original thing around collaboration, we had a girlfriend together, so we were in a 3-person relationship. So this was not like him going out with the girls. Like, this girl like lived with us for almost 2 years. And
2 years, long time.
This was during pandemic, so we were also like always together. And there was definitely some difficulties around that. Like, I'm not gonna lie. But having 3 people to take care of the bills, let's be honest, life is expensive these days. So from a financial perspective, having 3 incomes coming in, that's nice. Yeah. Number 2, from a kid caregiving perspective, having 3 adults to take care of the kid and to keep him stimulated.
You have a child. We have to talk about that too, how that combines.
I was segueing into it there. It just, more people to take care of a child or children, the more love that child gets, the more attention that child gets, and the less burden is placed on parents. Because I don't believe that it makes any sense for a couple to take care of children on their own. That's a lot, especially if you're working full time.
I think it takes a village, whether you're in that relationship with them or not. It takes a village. Yeah, absolutely. It does. So the child was getting a lot of love.
Lots of
attention. For sure.
And if we think about it just from that perspective, let's just look rationally. Let's remove the jealousy. Let's remove the sex, because most people are all, no, I don't want sex. Let's say if there was no sex involved. What's it? Then it's like, oh, another person, like a friend that lives with us, that we get along with, that we have dinners with. Like, I loved it because I had a serious job, and when she had COVID, she didn't have to work, so she was suddenly doing all the dishes, cooking the meals, cleaning the house, taking care of the kids' schoolwork.
Wasn't a burden.
And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I was, it was like, oh. So it was kind of like, there was a lot of advantages in that sense. Yeah. And sometimes when I was angry at my husband, I was like, girl, like, we need some girl time. And we would like watch movie like like chick flicks. My husband never
Sounds so
watched,
fun.
right?
Yeah, it's like living with your best friend that
Voila.
you're in a
So,
relationship with.
but you're in a
You
relationship
know?
with them. So there's also
Yeah,
the
exactly.
drama of relationships that come in.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always about how you want to perceive this and how you
Yeah.
want to look at this. And I'm not saying that this is like the rosy image. Yes, there was drama. Yes, there was fights. Yes, we got angry.
Right.
Yes, sometimes, and three people actually becomes four relationships because each
Yeah.
couple has their own dynamic, which is different. And then you have all three of us together, which has a dynamic. And so it becomes definitely more complex. But with complexity comes
True.
other things. We had
Right.
a lot more opportunities. We had a lot more people, a lot more energy, a lot more. So there was, it's
It's
always
a lot
about
going
pros and
on.
cons.
The good
It's
vibe.
a lot. But when it goes well, it can be really fun. And
Right.
of course, but like any relationship, sometimes there's good sides and bad sides. There's good times and bad times. Like that doesn't go away just because you're in a polyamorous relationship.
Yeah. It's just you're just basically you can have the same relationship but more. You're just adding one more person. And you're experiencing fulfillment every day, whether it's in the bed, whether it's cooking dinner together, whether it's celebrating the holidays, whether it's going over the income you said, and whether it's taking care of the child you guys have. There's a lot of love, feelings, emotions, and everybody in the household is human. You're going to have a lot going on, and just because it's a polyamorous relationship and the sense doesn't make it wrong. Like it's your freedom to do whatever you want to do with each other and whoever you want to spend it with. That's how it should be, honestly. You know, as long as it's communication and boundaries, like you said, and
And
some
honesty,
positive vibes going on.
it can be super positive. And like there are times
Mm-hmm.
where I am not feeling it, and there are times where my husband's not feeling
Yeah.
like it's about being honest about where you're at the
Yeah.
current moment, and just
Mm-hmm.
working with that and dealing with that. Um, but a lot of people tend to forget is that they are usually comfortable with they themselves being like, well, yeah, I know that I could see other people and I'd still love my partner. But then when it
Right.
comes to the other way around, it all comes down to trust. Do you trust your partner that
Mm-hmm.
them going out to see other people, they'll still come back to you? And that often comes from fear. And that was my biggest issue. It's the insecurities of like, well, what if she's prettier? What if she's better in bed? What if she's less
Yeah.
annoying? What if she's whatever,
Right.
And what it came down to is actually what my husband always tells me is like, Catherine, the fact that you allow me to see other people, why would I ever leave you? Like in the
Yeah.
opposite sense of like, how many women out there are okay with that, first of all? And like
Mm-hmm.
we love each other, we're best friends. And so he's like,
Right.
why, what can she possibly do differently that would make me want to leave you for only her when I started a relationship with her because I am allowed having several partners. So it's just like it kind of opened up to the like, yeah, like even if he
Yeah.
does, let's say if he does have another relationship for a while, like our relationship doesn't
Yeah.
have to end because he wants to explore something, or my relationship with
Exactly.
him and versus let's say in a monogamous relationship where you love your partner, you love your wife,
Mm-hmm.
you love your husband, you love your whatever, your partner. But suddenly there's someone that appears in your life that you're like, oh, like I really feel something for this person. And I want to
Yeah.
explore it
Yeah.
because, we only live once. We don't live very long.
You do. Right.
I'm 35. Like, how many more years do I have that I consider myself good looking and sexy? And like, I'm not saying that like when you get older, you're not any of these things, but my
Yeah. Yeah. I get what you're
youthfulness,
saying. You want to,
you know what
while
I
it's
mean?
hot, you want
While it's hot, let's take
to.
advantage. But it's something to
Right.
keep in mind. And it's like, I don't have to end my marriage and end my relationship to explore things. I'll always have my safety of like, I have my relationship that
That's
I can
true.
trust, that I can come back on. So when we start switching the mentality around the fear of competition, and I talk about this in my nonprofit work as well. We're not all in competition. Okay. If we
Yeah,
start
we're not.
collaborating, then
That's it
we're
becomes
better.
so much golden when people start coming together. It becomes so much of a beautiful outreach. You don't know, like right now, I know for sure the people that's watching or listening, they're really going to, I feel like they're gonna be jealous of the relationship that you have, because I know there's so many that possibly want to explore that side, but maybe their partner doesn't, or they both want to but they're scared of how they're gonna be, with boundaries, communication, maturity. But if you take that step and maybe that's something that you're into, you really never know. And if it's not, all you guys got to say to each other is no. Where does it lead you for these type of wonders of actually wanting to be in that relationship? That's for another conversation that they have. But it's not anything that's like, oh my god, no, what, you're with somebody else? That's what you like, that's what you love. Go ahead and be that type of love,
And to bring it down to the jealousy thing of like, oh, people are gonna be jealous. Like, okay, Cassandra, can I pause?
Yeah, pause it, pause.
Okay, 1 second. I've been getting 3 million calls. Hola. ¿Sí? Ok. Sí, déjame 2 segundos, es que estoy en una reunión. Déjame ver con mi esposo. Dame 2 segundos, ¿ok? Gracias. 1 second. My husband's not answering.
Yeah, you're good, because I can edit it quick.
He's probably playing video games.
Yeah, you're good.
Hey. Sorry, Mr. Pickles. Sorry. It's because if I don't answer, then we're not gonna get it.
Yeah, it's gonna go off and off. So good. Here we go.
The jealousy. So to bring it back to that point of when you say that people are gonna be jealous, and I've had so many couples be like, "Oh, I can never do what you guys do. Oh my god, no, I'd be so jealous. I'd be so this." But then, and this is often the men that are like, well, I wish I had that relationship. And it's like, well, do you deserve it? Like, have you worked on it? Like, it's not easy. It's not,
I feel like they're looking at it for something else, though.
And that's the thing. The question is, what are you doing this for? Because there's polyamory, which is building relationships with other people. And there's open relationships where you're free to go and sleep with other people. So first of all, there's a definition of what are you actually doing? Are you doing it because there's something missing in your relationship? Yeah. Or is it because you actually are just wanting to explore? And there's no right or wrong answer, but it's about discussing that as a relationship of, I personally never want to see other men unless I'm feeling neglected, or I feel like my husband is not spending enough time with me, or then I'm like, suddenly I'm more interested in others. But if he's there for me 100% of the time, like if I feel like my husband is present and there, I don't have the desire as much to leave. So the question is often, what are you actually seeking by being with other people? And also, does that align with both? Do both partners align on what that is? Like me and my husband love being with women together. Like that is a great thing of us because the jealousy isn't there. We get to live an experience together. It's not separate entities. And for me, that fills that void of like the fact that I dated women for most of my life, of like that relationship that I can develop with women is very different. So my advice to anyone that is like, oh, like I would love to do that, ask yourself really, what are you actually looking for before you start exploring? But also if it is something that has been on your mind, and I do believe that naturally we are not monogamous, we're mostly serial monogamous. We'll have many relationships back to back. So we do feel like we can love many different people. We just have this rule about not at the same time.
Yeah, because that's what they distill into you. Honestly, that's what they put into your head. You cannot do this. You marry this person you've been with, and that's it. Don't cheat. And it's like, well, if it's not cheating, you guys have an open conversation, and you have family. Oh, how's the family gonna look at me? But I just feel like if the people in the relationship are fine, then just go ahead and do it.
And what I always tell people is that it doesn't have to be forever. Like, or it's like me and my husband have never been like, and this is how it's going to be until the end of time. No, we'll always open to discussion. If I have asked him, like, if one day I come up to him and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. This is not something I'm interested in. He wants me to feel safe to express that. And then let's dive in. Why? Why am I not doing it? Is it because I'm not feeling satisfied in a relationship? Is it because of what is the reasons behind what we are feeling? And that's where communication is so key in any type of relationship, but even more so in this. And also, like, I don't know what the statistics are, and I'm not going to spout numbers, but how many people get cheated on?
Yeah.
How many people, and like,
I'm gonna look it up.
Right? Like, let's figure this out. I know that in certain countries it's higher than others. In Mexico, I live in Mexico, and it's the capital of infidelity, and it's just really interesting because they're also
it says 25%.
Right?
Yeah.
So like, this is something that
for married,
and I don't vilify cheating in the sense of, I don't vilify the desire to be with other people. For me, what I find wrong in that is the lying. It's the break of the trust. So
yeah, that's huge.
That's huge, because then your relationship, then you won't trust that person. But if we really break it down, there's something that my husband has taught me, and I've heard from other people as well, where always ask the 5 whys. So, but I'm going to be too jealous. Why? Well, because it makes me uncomfortable to see them with someone else. Why? Well, because then it makes me compare myself to that person and wonder if I'm good enough. And why do you do that? Well, because I always feel like I'm not good enough. Okay, but why? And then it's like, why do I feel like that? And then I'm like, no, you're right. I'm like, I'm a freaking great wife. I take care of my husband's child. I have a great job where I help provide for the family. I'm really fun. I allow him to, like, I'm a catch. And then suddenly that insecurity kind of goes, I'm like, yeah, no. And so when you start digging into the whys, it much easier, like, why did my husband cheat on me? Well, when's the last time you guys had sex?
5 whys, yeah.
5 years ago. Yeah, well, no shit. Like, I'm sorry, but people have different needs.
yeah.
So, like, do you still make you feel like a man? Does he still make you feel desirable and sexy? Like, so a lot of times these unhappiness is because there's something that is missing. But I also do believe that my husband's never going to replace when I had a girlfriend and that we were 2 women together. He's never going to replace that. So for me, it's not about him not being enough. It's about there's something that he cannot provide that I would feel bad if he
someone
stopped
else,
me from.
A woman can.
Yeah. So for sure, like, it's complex. It's not easy. But like we mentioned, there's a lot of our internal reasons of why we're so scared of it are more embedded in deeper rooted issues than just like, well, it's wrong.
Yeah, I was just about to say it's everybody's their own insecurities. Those 5 whys is definitely something great because the more you ask why, I'm like, all right, well, now I'm circling around. I really don't have any extra. Like, if I could name 5 whys and keep going, it's like, okay, maybe it's kind of valid. But if I'm circling, I'm like, well, I really don't know because I can provide. I can do this. Like you said, you help take care of his kid, and then we have that takes a place into the whole relationship. You're also a parent in a polyamorous relationship.
Oh, it's even more complicated than that. So, just like some context. So, my husband had a child with his ex 10 years ago, and they broke up not too long after they had the child. Like, the kid must have been like 1 year old. When I met my husband, the child was 2.5 years old.
Right.
So I've been in his life for a very long time. Fast forward. Now, the mom has her own husband partner. And when we moved to Mexico, we had to convince them to move here as well. So then both couples moved to Mexico, and we were actually living side by side, literally neighbors.
Okay.
So this brings up another issue around one second. So this brings up another issue around step parenting and bringing kids together from 2 different families. And how do you manage that? And of course, bring in like polyamory on top of that. Like, it's an even more complicated layer. But let's just stick to the just 2 parents. And once again, the idea and the theme of collaboration and not competition comes in of, are we competing for this kid's love of which is the better parent? Or are we trying to figure out what's the best situation for the kid? And a lot of parents have a hard time where it's constantly fighting of like being angry against the other parent because they're not perfect. Like, no one is perfect. Of course, when there's limits of like neglect, abuse, of course. But generally speaking, parents, I think, and individuals, adults, we're all doing the best we can. And As
Mm-hmm.
long as the child feels loved and accepted, I
Yeah.
think that's the most important part. And then that kid can survive and can thrive in an environment where he feels safe and loved and understood. So when you have four parents or six or whatever, how
Yeah.
many polyamorous relationships are involved in there as well, but let's say that there's the two relationships. Once again, that kind of comes back to the it takes a village. So we even went one step
Mm-hmm.
further, and for a bit over a year, we lived in the same house. So both relationships in the same
Okay.
house, and it wasn't easy in
That
some
must have
ways,
been
but in some other
something.
ways, it was something. But honestly, I think it brought us a lot together because we ended up having house parties together and like mixing friends. And
Nice.
that kind of becomes like we had fun together. We would go to events together. We would go to like birthday parties together and we would spend quality time to like, we're just people, we're doing our best. I
Right.
ended up
Yeah.
like, and so you get to know the other person. And there was definitely no
That's
jealousy or
true.
anything in that. So like, it helped us get closer. And also Cade, my stepson, like he felt this was the best time because he didn't have to choose a side. We were both in the same
Yeah.
place.
Everybody's right there that he loves. He doesn't have to say, "Well, I want to go here. I want to go there." Like you can just stay right. We're going together.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's really great for him.
Exactly. So when for me, and like I love what you said about like like I have an emotional maturity. Like I wasn't always this way, first of all, and I am definitely on a
Mm-hmm.
constantly evolving path. But for me, that maturity of being a parent, a responsible parent,
Right.
is putting your own ego aside sometimes and figuring out, well, what is actually best for my child? Is it just me?
Mm-hmm.
That's a bit selfish, right? Like if the child wants to spend
Right.
time with the other parent, then you have to, even if you don't like them as a relationship. We're not
Yeah.
talking about how they are as a
Yeah.
husband. We're talking about how are they as a dad or as a mom. And it's
Yeah.
definitely it's a tough conversation, but I found that by listening, taking the time to try to understand the other person and to find compromise whenever possible, it's the best thing that we can do for the children.
Yeah. That's really great. He understands the relationship. Like, do you guys probably take the time before he sees anybody different than you and his dad, right? Or
I
you
mean, it
know.
depends on the context. Like, for example, we had a girlfriend here in Mexico who also had two kids, and she
Okay.
she came over one time. He wasn't there. I think he was at his mom's, and then I think we ended up doing an activity with the kids. So it was kind of just like
Okay.
and then it got super well on. But Kate has grown up with us having other people in our relationship. So for him, it's not weird. So I'm
Oh, okay.
actually nervous slash very excited to see him as a teenager and how he's going to navigate that with his girlfriends. Well, yeah, I can have several girlfriends like my dad does. It's going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
Um, but it was never like like there's another girl. Like it was never seen as something weird. We never made it weird, and we just for him it was like he misses our girlfriend that we had for 2 years. He's like, oh, like I really liked having her around because she was like another friend
Yeah.
to play with, right? So
Yeah.
I think if we
It's not
look at
weird
it
for him. It's like
completely normal,
regular to him. Yeah.
and that's
It's
where
normal as it
socialization
should
comes
be.
in. Yeah.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was saying, as it should be. But there's so many everybody likes to put rules to everything. And I feel like it should only be like that if you and that other person don't feel like exploring anything else than just the two of you. But if, I call it honestly, I really call you guys like having free spirits, like being a free spirit, because you're able to express love more than just being as a friend. Like, we're in a relationship, we're together, this is who I'm with, you're accepting of that. They all know that this is, my wife, this is my husband. And I feel like, I don't know, for me, they would have to always respect that boundary. Like, well, if my wife says we cannot go out tonight, then that's just what it's going to be. We have other obligations. So is it different for you in that way, or?
I think we've been navigating those things of when it
Mm-hmm.
becomes controlling it can become like an issue of control of like, I'm not happy, so like you're not allowed tonight. And that's also disrespecting their relationship. As much as if they were
it is.
And for me, it's about respecting each other's relationships. One of the things, so this one girl that he went on a date with, he met her at a festival that I had not been at. And I really, really appreciated the way she approached it. She had experience in polyamory, which really helped. And I remember after coming back, she added me on Facebook or something. And she sent me a message saying, hey, Kat, like, I met your husband, like, or at the time it was your boyfriend at the festival. And if I'm going to continue seeing him, for me, it's really important that we get to know each other. I want to know what makes you uncomfortable so that I can respect those boundaries with you.
Okay.
And I was just like, girl, like you already won all the points. Like, and so I was like, why don't you come over? Let's do brunch. She came over. We did brunch. My boyfriend was doing this weird things with one of his friends. And we were just like, what are they doing? We ended up like zoning so well together. In the end, we ended up going to a festival, the three of us together, like a couple months later. So for me, it was that respect that she showed me and her desire to respect me as a person and as an individual, but also as his partner. It made it so much easier to understand and to respect her and be happy for, I love my husband. He's awesome. So I'm like, I get it. Why you'd want to be with him. So it's not easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
right.
When we're able to switch the perspective of, and this is where there's a term they use, it's called compersion. It's when you can be happy for someone else's happiness. So it's like a next level of compassion of like, I can be happy because you're happy. So when I know that he's, let's say, having the time of his life somewhere, I can be like, oh, I'm so happy for him. And isn't that what we all want in our relationships? Yeah. But when it comes to being with other people, we say no. And so
that's true.
There's some big socialization issues of that, of like Hollywood saying, like, oh my God, all of those movies where the drama of like they break up, they divorce, and then, oh my God, did you see?
Yeah.
She brought her new boyfriend home. It's like, yeah, well, duh. She's allowed bringing her boyfriend home. Yeah. Like, you know, we have all these limits of what is acceptable and what is not. And these are all created in our minds. There are no rules officially.
It is, though. There isn't. It's not only like for the marriage part of things. You know, there's like, all right, how many people you can marry. But, you know, you start off married and now you're just expanding the circle who's able to come into your circle. But you guys are just loving others that love you back or like you back. And my thing is, how are you finding all of them out there? Like, hey, you guys on an app or something? Like, how? Like, you know, like people, they go out and they're like, oh yeah, we're having this or they just feel the vibe.
Yeah. It's so there are apps that exist. I wouldn't say that those are the most successful.
Okay.
There's a lot of couples. There's a lot less usually girls that will. Guys are super down for anything. If there's a couple that's like looking for a guy, guys are like, yeah, I'm down. Like they're always down. Like not to generalize, but I'm gonna generalize.
So true.
But the opposite is a bit less. So that's why they call them the unicorns, like when couples are looking for a third girl. And usually this is just in a sexual context, but they call them unicorns. But when we're talking about polyamory, what our reality has been of what's worked is often girls that I meet. I consider myself a cool person. Like I have a very open vibe. People trust me. And so I'm like the opposite of intimidating. So when I say, me and my husband are in an open relationship, like you should come over sometime, they don't get scared and run away. So I'm like, come to our party. And then they get to meet us. They get to see how amazingly sexy my husband is. And then one thing leads to another and they feel comfortable. So it's mostly been through people that I meet in a very organic sense, friends of friends, girls I met at work, or whatever it may be. When I was a waitress, it was a lot easier also. Like that was a lot easier in the service industry.
Yeah.
But and it kind of goes from there, especially like my husband's a DJ. We go to a lot of events. So in those contexts, it makes a lot of sense. And just openly talking about it My husband has this saying where he just says, yeah, she's one of my, like, she's my wife, but she's also like, I have many girlfriends. He just like says it like that so that it's just like, oh, okay.
That's
It's
how
just
he
like,
says it.
yes. And it just, in the
Makes him
sense
cool.
of, it makes him cool, but it also, it's kind of like sets the bar. Like, let's say if he goes on a date, there's like, you're not going to be the only one. So if you're not
Right.
cool with that, bye bye. It's you have to be
Right.
cool with the fact that you're not going to be the only one, and then it kind of
Right.
filters out those that are not comfortable with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. You guys have such a great dynamic, and
It's fun.
I know
It's
yeah,
interesting.
it's funny. I know it has its moments, and I know it had taken a lot, to get possibly to where you are right now, and then from day to day activities, whoever it is that either you search for outside or you don't search for, you just come across or you see on the
Mm-hmm.
apps. Being parents, having your own business, him being a DJ, I got it going on relationship wise and everything going on because that was hilarious. I'm a DJ. I got many
Mini girlfriend.
girlfriends, but I have a wife. You know what I'm saying? And it's like everybody looks like they will always say though, "Oh, he's the man. He has a girlfriend and a wife. He's winning," because they're looking at him as the male dominance here. Whether he could be a feminine, have a feminine side or not, he's a male with different women. And they're always going to look at, because they'll sexualize. They're always going to look at women, or just, oh, they could be with other women. But when a man has multiple women, it's like, oh, he's winning. He's that guy. They want to be him. You know what I'm saying?
And
And it's
that
like,
100%. And like, this is a very heteronormative conversation in that direction, but like that is a fact of in the animal
yeah.
kingdom, the male
Yeah.
has several females. That is so there
Yes.
are some evolutionary, like
Mm-hmm.
biological makes the man proud, makes him feel like he's making it. And so for me as a wife, like making him feel like that, allowing him to tap into that
Right.
amazing masculine energy, like
Mm-hmm.
it makes me feel like very proud. And I know it brings energy to me. And so,
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
not?
Why not? You're having a good time. I'm telling you, there's so many people going to be like really intrigued because I don't know.
Oh, a
Out.
lot of people ask me
Yeah.
questions all the time.
They're probably like, "Oh my god, can I know what's going on? What's going on? Do
Can
you
I
do
ask you
this?
a
Do you do
question?
that?"
What do you like? What's the rules? No, no, no. And like, what I always tell people is like, you're gonna create your own rules, and our rules have changed. I don't know how many times in the past 7
What's the
years.
number one rule right now?
The number one rule, the only thing that doesn't change is we tell each other everything. Even if it's scary,
Okay.
even if you've messed up, even if you've made a mistake, which we both have, we tell each
Right.
other. So that way that we know if you can tell me the difficult stuff, then I can always trust you.
Yeah.
Because if when people only tell you the easy stuff, like, no, I don't want to be with anyone else. No, baby, I love only you. That's easy to say.
Yeah.
Telling people, like
Right.
I told him the other day, for the first time in a long time, there was a guy at the shelter that I'm volunteering at. He was really hot. And I was able to
Yeah.
tell him that, like, I haven't been attracted to another
Yeah.
guy in a very long time. And he's like, oh, I was wondering if you were like seeing it. Because I was like, no, there's none. And so we were able to have that conversation without it becoming a fight of
Yeah.
like, were you checking that girl out? Yeah, she had a nice butt. I'm like, yes, she did. And we can just be honest.
Yeah.
So we don't bottle it up and like it festers and then you create these tensions of
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I really want to do it. I really want to do it. And then what happens? You do it behind their back. And then you feel guilty. And
Yeah.
then shit in your relationship. And so for me, number one rule,
Yeah.
100% honesty about how you feel, even if you're not going to do it in the end. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I've been
Yeah.
really tempted to go on dates with other guys. Why? I don't know. Just test it out. I kind of feel like it. But then I'm like, yeah, I don't feel like it. Guys, I don't feel like it anymore. But I'm allowed to express it,
Exactly.
So anyways, that's the
Exactly.
number one rule. Just always be honest.
Well, that's good.
And, there's always the communication. That's the number one rule. That's
And
it.
there you have it.
There you have it.
Before we go, what is something you would tell anybody who is wanting to explore the polyamorous world?
Polyamorous world. I like that. the number one thing is it's gonna tap in to your internal demons and your internal work. So if you're not on a spiritual path, or I'm not saying you have to be spiritual, but like if you're not on a self-development, whatever you want, inner work, therapy, this is gonna make you face a lot of things, because it taps into a lot of our fears around worth, self-worth, insecurity. So if you're already into that, this is a great way of testing those boundaries, of learning a lot about yourself and learning a lot about your partner. And I believe it has the power to transform your relationship into something really, really strong. And if not, it has the super great power of transforming yourself if you're open to the process. And it's not going to be easy. It's not. But monogamy is not always easy either. So it's about choosing, what do you want to do? You want to try and learn something new? Do you want to level up? You want to try different things? You might end up coming back to monogamy, but at least you've. But it is. Can you level up your confidence in yourself? It is. You might end up saying, you know what, it wasn't for me, but I learned so much about ourselves and our relationship is so much stronger now, and I'm glad we did it. So just
the worst thing you can hear from your partner is just no.
Yeah. And don't come at it, the energy that you bring when you bring it up of like, yeah, so I'm not sure, but like I'm kind of thinking, like if you're insecure about it, your partner's gonna feel like something's up, like this is weird, you know. But if you bring it up like, hey, you know, I've been thinking a lot about this, like how do you feel about this? And like I'm not saying I want to explore it or anything, but just like I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you had thoughts about that? Most people have. They just don't admit to it.
Yeah. That's one thing. And it's okay if you're checking out somebody with your partner. It's not the end of the world. Your partner got to be your best friend in some way, shape, form, whatever. My partner's my best friend. We could check out whoever we want. We're just not in that headspace yet to like explore.
Okay.
Who knows? It's just that's just me, because I'm just like no, you're not, like that's just me.
That's me too, though. That was me for the longest time. I'm not sharing.
I don't know if this is just a Virgo thing. I'm not sharing.
My husband's Virgo, like, so just saying.
He's a Virgo?
He's a Virgo.
But yeah.
It's hard. Yeah. It's hard. It's like I'm a Cancer, so the opposite. I just cry all the time. So it's not any better. But
my God.
Yes, it's not simple, but it's only if you feel like, if you're not feeling the desire to do it, then don't bend over backwards.
Forcing you. We're just
saying the option is there for some people.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it was a pleasure.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I hope this helped.
It was.
Or maybe I'm gonna be sparking some difficult conversations.
Yeah, this is the winging it vibes for this podcast. Like spreading extra information that others don't want to speak about, and here we go where we're gonna actually have that conversation. And you guys, if you're listening, come over and watch the visualness of it. And make sure you guys also come on, tell us where can we see your business. You're a businesswoman, we gotta talk about it. Where can we find it?
If ever this somehow inspired you to want to hire me as a nonprofit fundraising consultant, then you can always check out my podcast and my website at justbecause.consulting. I do a lot of great work also with nonprofits, but for sure, I'm always open to chat. If people are like, I'm a very giving person. If you want to check on LinkedIn, I'm very active there. You can always reach out. And like, if you have any doubts about how to approach things, I'm not an expert, I'm not a therapist, but I'll always be willing to chat if I have the time about, hey, like, have you tried this? Have you tried that? I can give you a woman's perspective. I can't be a man's perspective, but I can give you mine.
And we're saving the penguins. I get the emails all the time.
We're saving the penguins, the dogs, the cats, all of them, all of the animals. We're saving them.
There we go. Thank you so much for coming on the episode. It was so amazing. And we will catch you guys next time.